So, how does a kid from the Marcy Projects in Brooklyn become the first billionaire in hip-hop history? I'll tell you right now, it's not just talent, it's not just luck, it's a system, a deliberate, repeatable philosophy for turning cultural credibility into an empire of ownership. In this explainer, we're going to deconstruct that very system, the Jay-Z blueprint. Okay, let's get into it. Think about that for a second. In 1996, every single major record label said no. They didn't just pass on him. They fundamentally misread the entire culture. They saw a risk, an unmarketable style. But Shawn Carter, he saw something completely different. He realized their rejection wasn't about his talent. It was a flaw in their system. And right there, in that moment, he made a decision that would change, well, everything. And this right here is the whole key. That single act of refusal, it wasn't just some defiant gesture. Nope, it was the foundational move of his entire business philosophy. It was the very first brick he laid in an empire built on ownership, an empire that would completely redefine what it means to be an artist in the modern world. So how did he actually pull it off? This wasn't just a one-off move. It was a blueprint with 6 distinct parts. We're gonna start with that defining refusal. Then we'll rewind a bit to understand how he was forged in the projects. From there, we'll decode the blueprint philosophy itself, see the 2 systems in action that brought it to life, witness the incredible scale of his legacy of ownership, and finally, we'll break down how you can build your own blueprint. Okay, let's go right back to that moment of rejection. All the industry doors slammed shut. You know, for most artists, that is the end of the line. For Jay-Z, that's when the real work started. This is the birth story of Rockefeller Records. Now, this wasn't some emotional reaction. This was a calculated strategic pivot. He didn't get mad, he got busy. Using his own street capital, he and his partners founded Rockefeller Records. And I mean, they were literally selling his debut album, Reasonable Doubt, from the trunks of their cars. He was bypassing the entire system because he saw it for what it was, a structure built on middlemen. Just like the hustle he knew from the block, the creator takes all the risk, while layers of executives skim most of the profit. He made a decision right then and there. Ownership wasn't just a goal, it was the only goal. I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. Come on, this isn't just one of the greatest lines in hip-hop history. It's a mission statement. It is a complete paradigm shift. He was saying, I'm no longer going to be the product you sell, I'm going to be the company. He would own the means of production, he would control the distribution, and he would dictate the terms. He became the whole business. But where does this kind of ruthless business savvy even come from? This ability to see the entire chessboard when everyone else is just playing checkers? Well, to understand that, we have to go back, way back, to the place that forged him, the Marcy Projects in Brooklyn. Forget Wharton or Harvard. Jay-Z's business school was the Marcy Projects, a high-risk, hyper-efficient economic ecosystem. His early days hustling taught him real-world lessons you can't learn in a classroom. He learned about supply and demand on a minute-by-minute basis. He learned about brand reputation, where your word was your bond. It was your most valuable asset. And most importantly, he mastered ruthless risk assessment. Because in that world, a single bad call didn't just cost you money. It could cost you everything. This wasn't a case study. It was survival. But the biggest lesson he learned wasn't about profits. It was about power. Or, more accurately, the lack of it. He watched his mentors, these incredible artists he looked up to, get trapped in predatory record deals. He saw their creativity get choked out, their careers controlled, and their legacies owned by some corporation. He saw their powerlessness, their dependency, and it terrified him. He learned the hard way that if you don't own the system will always, always own you. And from that, he drew one unshakable conclusion: autonomy is the ultimate asset. So, you take that street education, you add that deep-seated fear of losing control, and what do you get? Well, Jay-Z didn't just build a record label, he built an entire philosophy. And this, right here, is the intellectual core of the blueprint. It's the engine that powers the whole empire. Okay, this is the key concept right here: transference of capital. Think of it like this: your talent, your art, your influence, that's your cultural currency. It's super valuable, but it's also, intangible. The blueprint says you cannot stop there. You have to systematically convert that cultural currency into hard assets, into businesses, real estate, infrastructure that you physically own. You transfer the power from the stage to the balance sheet. Your credibility becomes the leverage to build a financial machine that feeds itself. So how does this actually work in practice? By treating yourself like a holding company. First, diversify. Jay-Z isn't just a rapper, he's a portfolio. Music, sports, fine art, champagne, tech, you name it. Second, accumulate. The focus is always on long-term assets, not a quick payday. Third, invest smart. He basically follows a Warren Buffett rule. Only invest in what you truly understand. And for him, that's the culture he comes from. Fourth is all about funding freedom. The businesses are designed to buy him total creative independence. And all of this creates the final and most important step, a self-sustaining loop. His business success funds his art, and his authentic art gives his businesses credibility. It's a perpetual motion machine of wealth and creativity.
Look, a philosophy is powerful, but it's nothing without execution. And Jay-Z's execution is frankly legendary. It's driven by two disciplined, powerful systems that let him operate at a speed and a level of quality that seems almost superhuman.
Let's break these down. On one side, you've got his personal production engine, the Mnemonic Lyrical System. This is the legendary no pen, no pad method. He literally architects and memorizes entire complex songs in his head before he even steps in the booth. It's an incredible feat. It means when that expensive studio clock is ticking, there is zero waste. It's just pure high-velocity workflow. Then, on the other side, you have his system for scaling, the architect's assembly. Here, he's the chief architect. He sets the vision, and then he systematically finds and elevates undervalued, genius-level talent. Think of a young Kanye West or Just Blaze. He delegates the day-to-day execution, but he never, ever gives up control of the master blueprint. So here's the bottom line. One system maximizes his own personal efficiency, and the other system scales innovation across his entire empire. Together, they create a method that is both creatively groundbreaking and commercially ruthless. He systematically eliminates waste, minimizes risk, and turns the very act of creating art into a model of peak economic productivity. So, what's the result of all this? The street smarts, the philosophy of ownership, those ruthlessly efficient systems? Where does it all lead? Well, it leads to a fundamental transformation, not just of one man, but of an entire industry. It leads to this number, over $1 billion. But listen, this is not just about the money. This number is a proof of concept. It's tangible, undeniable evidence that the blueprint worked. It sent a message to a whole generation that generational wealth wasn't going to come from playing the industry's game, but by building your own. You can actually watch his journey as a clear escalation of power. He started where most artists do, down at the bottom, facing these exploitative contracts with almost no control. Then, by building his own infrastructure with Rockefeller, he seized a huge amount of control. But he didn't stop there. He moved on to industry-wide disruption, creating ventures like Roc Nation and the streaming service TIDAL, which were built from the ground up to give artists more equity and more power. He didn't just play the game better, he changed the rules of the game itself. And that is his ultimate legacy. He proved that the most powerful form of protest, the most effective form of activism, was economic empowerment. By building his own tables instead of begging for a seat at theirs, he used his influence to change the rules for everyone who came after him. So, we've walked through the whole story, from the streets, to the boardroom, to billionaire status. But this story doesn't end with him, because the final step of the blueprint is about turning his lessons into your actions. And it all really comes down to this one provocative question, a question about your own mindset. Are you an employee or are you a business? Do you see yourself as someone who works for a system, trading your time for a paycheck? Or do you see yourself as the CEO of your own life, a business of one, with skills that are assets to be leveraged and owned? So here it is, your blueprint for action. First, adopt that transference of capital mindset. Start thinking about how you can convert your talent into tangible ownership, a side project, a piece of IP, equity. Second, stop selling your time and start selling your systems. Build things that generate value even when you're not actively working. Master your craft with an obsessive efficiency that becomes your edge. And finally, commit to building your own infrastructure, no matter how small you have to start. At his core, Jay-Z was and still is a meticulous hustler of both words and commerce. His single greatest decision was to reject the system right after it rejected him. The Jay-Z blueprint created this incredible legacy of generational wealth because he prioritized ownership over applause and self-reliance over security. And the final lesson is this: true freedom isn't found in a paycheck. It's found in owning the machine that makes it.